If you're watching this video, you probably love to sing and love jazz. And maybe you went out to a jam session or sat in with some jazz musicians, and then somebody asked you, "Are you going to take a solo?" A lot of singers feel intimidated by improvising, or they feel really confident before getting lost and flustered. But improvising is central to the identity of jazz music, and it's a lot of fun, and as singers we should embrace that. The good news is that it's a skill that can be learned and practiced. So what is improvisation exactly in a jazz context? It's not just riffing or singing some notes that work. When a jazz musician improvises, they're creating a new melodic line over the harmony of the original melody. It's a little bit like spontaneous composition. To do this, we have to be able to hear the harmony with our inner ear. But a lot of singers are used to using their ears reactively, so they'll listen for a chord, think, and then sing some notes that fit it. The problem is that it's difficult, if not impossible, to create an intentional connected line using that strategy. What we need to do instead is learn the harmony of the song, just like we learn the melody. If we can hear the harmony before it happens, then we can interact with it instead of just reacting to it, and we can start to build new melodies on top of it. Today, I'm going to show you a basic exercise for learning to hear the harmony of a tune. I'll demonstrate using the first 8 measures of the jazz standard If I Should Lose You in its typical key of B-flat major. There's a link to the PDF with each of the steps in the description below. First, sing through the roots of the chords. Do this slower than you'd usually sing the song, unless it's a ballad, but try to keep it at a consistent tempo. You can use a metronome, but you don't have to. Here's what it looks like. Pa, pe, pa, te, pa, pa, to, pe, to, pa, ta. Then you're going to sing the thirds of the chords. Now, when you're starting out, it's okay to use the piano to play the roots while you sing the other chord tones. Just make sure that you're singing and playing at exactly the same time. You're trying to train your ear to hear ahead, not to respond to something that you already hear. Pa, de, do, de, da, do, de. Pa, do, de, do. So you may have noticed that the thirds didn't move in exactly the same pattern as the root. That's because when chords change from major to minor, or from major 7 to dominant 7, you're going to need to hear the relationship of the new note to its root, not just move in the same pattern that you learned during the first step. Next, we're going to sing the sevenths. This can be the hardest one to hear, so be patient with yourself. Da, de, do, de, da, do, de, ba, do, de, da. Now we'll sing the fifths. These are typically the least important chord tone, and very often will move parallel to the roots. But for half-diminished chords like the A minor 7 flat 5 in the second measure, or when a song has chords with an altered fifth, it is important to hear the change in quality of the fifth. Pa, de, do, de, da, do, de, pa, do, de, do. Once you're comfortable doing all of these through the chord progression of a song, there are 2 more steps. First, you can combine the chord tones to sing full arpeggios. You may need to use a slightly slower tempo because you're going to be singing 8 notes in some measures instead of just 2. Ba do de da, 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 ba do de da. So you may have noticed that during the arpeggios I switched octaves whenever it felt most comfortable. You should do the same thing depending on your range and the song you're working on. And if you need to, you can switch octaves mid-arpeggio. Finally, you can alternate between different chord tones. The most common approach is to alternate thirds and sevenths, and this works very smoothly for basic conventional harmony. But you should try experimenting with different combinations of chord tones as well. Be, do, da, do, de, do, da, do, de, de, do, de. So this is just one of many ways to begin learning to improvise, and I'll talk about some others in future videos. But I think you'll find that once you can hear the harmony before it arrives, you won't get lost as easily, and you'll have more freedom to experiment and play. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me using any of the links I've got in the description below. Good luck, and have fun.